Right. This rather manky old journal is from 1994. This particular date, 29th of the 12th, 1994. On this day, I did 120.9 kilometers. My average speed was 21.8, modest on a bicycle. My maximum speed was 44. And I had about 5.5 to 6 hours in the saddle. Yeah, about halfway through my trip from Jerusalem to Johannesburg, I'd set out with 4 people, and by this time I was down to just myself. I'd become detached from the others in the group. The reason I'm going to speak about this day is it was one that was just so special to me, and it just lived on in my memory. So let me try and give you a sense of what I experienced on this particular day. I think what I'll do is I'll start off by reading just the beginning of the journal. The mozzie net had holes in it, and I was almost eaten alive. Perhaps the net was just a security device to prevent the hotel patrons from being bodily removed from the rooms by the mosquitoes. Fairly typical day. It had been raining a lot in Tanzania, and there were a lot of mosquitoes out. It was a hot time of the year, obviously. Being in the tropics, it's pretty much always hot. Anyway, I'd been navigating with this large Michelin map, road map. It had a scale of 1 centimeter to 40 kilometers, which made navigating quite complicated. You didn't get a lot of detail, and a lot of it was, you could say, a little bit on the mysterious side. For example, we noticed sometimes that there would be a road that became incredibly squiggly, and we'd think, what was that? And we learned very quickly that usually indicated a lot of hairpins and probably a mountain. But this one feature on the map had me a little bit confused, and that was a large green border around a big part of southern Tanzania. And inside that area, it said Mikumi National Park. And the road that I was taking from the direction of Dar es Salaam heading towards Malawi, that main road, full of buses and trucks, went straight through this area that was indicated as Mikumi National Park. I could see on the map it was about 2.5 centimeters, which meant about 100 kilometers of distance that I would need to cover. So, as a South African, obviously, I had spent time in game reserves. So when I looked at this and it said nature reserve, I was like, surely it's not like a proper game reserve. It's just, I don't know, an area where there's no farming or something. It can't be a game reserve. I just couldn't understand that there could be a major road going through a game reserve. So anyway, set off after about 20 or 30 kilometers. I got to this fence. It was clearly a game fence. And it was very, very high. It must have been 3 or 4 meters high. And there was a big gate on it, and the gate was open. And there were signs on either side attached to this game fence. And the signs were quite clear. What they said was, you are now entering Mikumi National Park. All animals should be considered dangerous. Remain in your vehicle and keep your windows wound up. All good advice. But on a bicycle, I didn't have windows. So I stood there for a while thinking, what on earth am I going to do? But I'd seen a couple of overland trucks going through, and I'd seen some buses and so on overtaking me, and they were still passed into this game reserve. I stood there for a while. There were no alternative routes around this park. It was a massive park. And I just didn't see any option. All I could think is I've just got to keep going. So with quite a lot of nervousness, I crossed over like a cattle grid through the gate and onto this road. And not like I was going particularly fast before on a bicycle, but now I really slowed down. And I had my head on a pivot. I was looking left and right and looked and right. And every little sound, I was like, what was that? And I was looking through the bushes, and I was remembering, you know, you don't look at the bush, you look through it, see what's on the other side. It was typical kind of African landscape. You've got those flat-topped acacia or thorn trees, ant heaps, scrubby grass, thorns everywhere, just typical savanna. No animals. I pedaled on slowly. The road was quite smooth and it wound a little bit, so I would frequently come around corners and be a little concerned about what I might see. I must have cycled for half an hour, saw absolutely nothing. Just started to relax. And coincidentally at this time, there weren't that many buses or trucks or anything coming past. In fact, I don't think anything came past at all. It was really, really quiet, just the sound of the chain, the gears and the tires on the road, a little bit of creaking of the luggage. And I was thinking, well, clearly there's no animals in this place. You know, the sign was optimistic, and I would be okay. And then I came around a corner, and off to the side, in a little dusty patch, underneath a acacia tree, there was this burrow, big hole, and standing just outside were two warthogs facing out at a little angle. And I could see they were looking around, and they seemed to be like, clearly they'd heard something. So if you're in the Kruger National Park and you're in a car, warthog doesn't look like a particularly large or fearsome animal. But when you're on a bicycle, those damn things are big. And honestly, their faces with the tusks and everything, it looks absolutely armor-plated. And I saw them, and I kind of did a little start, and they saw me, and they did the same thing, and then they just took off, running virtually straight at me. I tried to jump off the bicycle, but I was clipped in with those clipless pedals, so the whole bicycle sort of jumped up into the air, and these two warthogs, just dust coming off their hooves as they trotted along, well, not hooves, trotters, I guess. And as they got up to speed, then they turned and they peeled away, and they went off in different directions. And my heart rate was through the roof. And I managed to calm myself down, and I hadn't fallen off, and the warthogs were gone. And I was like, wow, okay, so there's warthogs. And I carried on, and a couple of minutes later, there was another pair, exactly the same type of situation. You get a hole, and then you get these two warthogs, and they're kind of looking around like, what is it? And then they just take off, like jet fighters. They come straight at you. But I figured out after the third or fourth time, what warthogs seem to do is in their survival tactic is if they feel like they're in danger, they don't stop and think, where's the danger? Where should I run? The first thing is that they do is they get up to speed. They just go as fast as they can in whatever direction they happen to be facing. And once they've got that speed, then I think decisions are made about where is the danger and should we be running in what direction to evade it. So if they are startled and the danger is actually in front of them, for a brief moment they will run in that direction. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. The first thing you want to do if you're in danger is get moving. Just get moving. It doesn't matter where. Just get moving. And warthogs have got this absolutely blistering acceleration. I mean, you just cannot believe it. One moment they're absolutely dead still, and the next moment these things are at full speed. I don't know what a warthog's full speed is, but it's a lot faster than a bicycle. Well, a lot faster than I am on a bicycle. So this happened over and over and over, and eventually, you know, you kind of calm down. You think, well, that's nice. And then I came around another little area, another corner, and there was a magnificent giraffe just on the side of the road. It was really, you know, you get giraffe come in different sizes and so on. This thing was magnificent. It was absolutely enormous, and it was just munching away on the top of a tree as they do with that big purple tongue. So by this time, I'm feeling completely exhilarated. I'm on my own in a game reserve, and I've seen warthog, and I've seen giraffe, and I come around another corner, and there's zebra with giraffe, and there's some ostrich, and the animals just pretty much ignoring me at this point. The warthogs, yeah, they would run still if they were close enough, but you get those little mixed herds with giraffe and zebra and warthog and some ostrich. They're probably all part of some defensive strategy. And I'm just riding through this. It's like I'm in some Garden of Eden. Absolutely amazing. And I am still thinking, game reserve, are there predators here? But all my instincts are telling me no. Why would there be? They're not going to allow people just to wander around a game reserve if there's lion and leopard and elephant and buffalo and that type of thing. It just seems to me completely improbable. But at one point I looked over to my right and I saw elephant off in the distance, just moving in that slow, majestic fashion that elephant have. And I was like, okay, so there are elephant. I'm gonna have to tighten up my act and be a little bit more careful. Although, when you say be careful, what does that actually mean if you're on a bicycle? I don't know. And at one point I thought it was starting to get a little bit later. It was I don't know, it must have been after lunch, and I hadn't had anything to eat. I had a packet of biscuits. That was my food for the day. So I stopped under this beautiful tree on the side of the road. I sat on a rock eating my biscuits, and off in the distance I could see a herd of elephants, I think must have been about 5 or 6 of them, moving slowly towards me, and they look like they're going in slow motion, but they are so big, with such a long gait, that even though they look like they're moving extremely slowly, you look away and 5 minutes later and you can see they're noticeably closer to you. So this went on, and eventually I thought, no, I think they headed towards this particular tree that I'm sitting under eating my biscuits. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get into an argument with elephant, that's for sure. Got back on the bicycle and carried on. And I'm like, okay, that's it. It cannot get any better than this. I've seen a whole lot of animals. I've seen elephant, thankfully, off in the distance. I've absolutely no predators, but thank goodness. But it's been an absolutely marvelous day. Such a beautiful landscape, baobab trees, and it's just this crisp blue sky with fluffy clouds. It was just insane how beautiful it was. And then I went through a particular patch where the trees were a little bit more dense, and they came right up close to the side of the road. And I saw elephant on the side of the road. Well, I saw one elephant on the side of the road. And I thought, oh my goodness, now what? So I stopped pedaling. I had a bit of momentum, went as slow as I could, went on the far side of the road as close to the edge. Elephant was on the edge of the road on the other side. And I thought, I'm not even gonna breathe. I'm not gonna pedal. I'm just gonna slowly freewheel past this guy. Because it didn't look aggressive. There was none of the trunk up and the ear flapping or anything like that. And I went slowly past this elephant. And when I got opposite, it was just carrying on eating, and I just couldn't help myself. I just put on brakes and I stopped. I stopped on the side of the road with this elephant on the other side of the road. And I just watched this elephant. It was like, what, 5-6 meters away from me? It's just something I don't ever forget. When you're in a car, an elephant looks big. But I'm going to say it again, the same as I did with the warthog. When you're standing on the side of the road, an elephant is beyond big. So I just stood there for a moment and I watched it. And then I heard the sound of branches breaking. And I looked a little bit off to the one side. There's a little gap in the bushes. And I saw another elephant. And then I slowly became aware that there was movement around me. And I was pretty much at that point in the middle of a herd of elephant. it's a strange thing. It's such a big animal, and it's grey. It's not like it's green and mottled to hide away. Why it is that you can't see them? I think it's such an irregular shape compared to another animal. And it's so big that your eye doesn't pick up the pattern of it. It doesn't see the edges of it. So it just doesn't notice it. And they move with such deliberate slowness that their presence, it's just not immediately apparent. I thought about it afterwards. I could have cycled right past other elephants and just not seen them. So I sat there on my bicycle as long as I dared, watching these elephants as they ate and as they watched me, and they slowly moved around. They didn't approach, I didn't come closer, they didn't deliberately seem to be moving away. There were some young ones, no babies that I saw, but there were some juveniles. And eventually I heard a car or a truck off in the distance. And I thought, I don't actually want to be here if a bus or something hurtles through, possibly startling them, and I'm the one that gets sort of collateral damage. So slowly, as deliberately and as non-threateningly as I could, I got back into the saddle and pedaled off. I mean, I get gooseflesh when I think about it now. And as I rode off, and I thought, how am I ever going to explain this to anybody? Is anybody ever going to believe this? And by this time it was getting a little bit later, and the sun was a little bit lower, and you started to get that lovely contrast and the light warming up as the sun goes down. It's just the perfect time for photography if you're a photographer. And I went around another little area and over a bridge, and I looked off to the right, and there was a giraffe and a Land Rover coming from the other side. And all the people in the Land Rover were hanging out and waving frantically at me. And I looked up, and as I looked up, this giraffe just took off in that slow motion gallop that they have. And I waved back to the people in the Land Rover, and they were waving at me, and the giraffe was trotting. It was just... the bright green grass and at that particular place, and the trees. It was just coming into the rainy season, so there'd been some rain. It was just a thing that's just etched in my memory. And I carried on and saw a few more people, and there was a town of Mikumi, which is just outside the gates on the other side. So I managed to get out of the game reserve that day. I didn't fancy trying to camp inside the place. I mean, I still didn't know about predators. And I got through it and found a place to stay that night just outside the gate. And I thought, well, thank goodness, no predators or anything. So the people that I'd been cycling with were, in fact, behind me. I'd been riding like hell to try and catch up with them. And I'd been told that there were two people on bicycles in front of me. It turned out it was a German couple, and the two people that I was looking for were, in fact, behind me. And they caught up with me in Malawi. And their experience in the Mikumi Game Reserve had been a bit different. They were going to camp in the middle of it, and somebody had stopped and said, "Do you know there are lions here?" And had taken them off to a lodge and given them a place to camp there. So there are, in fact, predators in that place. Buffalo, I don't know, but there were prides of lion there. I'm actually quite glad I didn't know at the time. It would have completely ruined it. So at the end of the day, on this, I wrote about what a marvelous day I'd had. You can see how much I'd written. And at the end of it, I'd written, "Happy birthday to my sister," because the 29th of December is, in fact, her birthday. And I'd forgotten about that. I'd forgotten until I picked this journal up. It's become a little bit fragile. The pages are a bit brittle. I've never read through it ever since. And this covers from, I think, somewhere around Nairobi, all the way through. I don't actually know. I haven't read the rest of it. Yeah, so one of those days, an otherworldly day. It's like, I can hardly believe that I actually had the privilege in my life to experience that. Something that happened, what is it, 31 years ago, almost to the day.